there is a tradition of telling history orally, or the oral tradition. I mentioned this a little bit earlier this morning. Folk songs are a very good example of that. Old traditional folk songs are oral histories. And then, of course, along come monks who start writing it all down, and we perhaps lose that tradition. But think about real history, not dates, kings and queens, but actual history of where you live, who you are, what happened. We've explored this during World War I, for example, and World War II. Lost bits of history, which we've rediscovered. And that is one of the essences of what we're going to be talking about now with Jenny Szewiel, who's from the charity Volunteering Matters, and Diane Porter, who's the lead volunteer from the project, Learning for Life. Ladies, good morning. Welcome to the programme.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming in. I'm going to start with you, if I may, Jenny. Just explain the essence of what you're trying to achieve here.
We're doing a project with a local school, 4 Acres Academy, in Withywood, and we are bringing volunteers into the classroom to work with a group of year 3 and 4, and they'll be delivering some oral history. They'll also be telling the young people about the local history of the area, of Withywood, Hartcliffe, and Bishopsworth as well.
Okay, year 3 and 4 in real ages, because I get lost. I mean, I've got children. I've got children who are 7 and 10, and I get confused as to what year they're in and what. It's like the 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year when I was growing up. What is it?
It's ages 7 till 9.
So these are very young, receptive minds. Then very young, receptive minds, and this is people going in to tell the history of the area, or their own history relevant to Hartcliffe, Withywood, Bishopsworth?
It's going to be a mixture. I think that's what's really nice about the project, so that older people in the local area who've lived there maybe their whole lives or just for parts of their lives can share their experiences, but also people that maybe haven't lived there as long can join us and do some research with us and then go and either deliver that or just give us the information to deliver to the children as well.
Now, you picked 3 very interesting areas there, because they're areas that today bear no resemblance to what it was like 100 years ago or even 50 years ago. They have you're nodding there,
yes.
Diane. You know this very, very well.
I do, yes.
I mean, bombed royally in the Second World War, flattened virtually some parts there, and it's changed so much, hasn't it?
Definitely, even in my lifetime.
So let's just start with you. May I ask how old you are?
I'm 66.
What attracted you to this project, Diana?
Well, I was asked by Ken Kennedy, who is the lead of Volunteering Matters.
Yeah.
And I've been involved with the Dundry View Neighbourhood Partnership since its onset. And I was involved with the Green Capital Arts project.
Right.
And Ken immediately thought of me. And where I live, my house should have been built in 1939. However, the war began. So house building ceased.
Ground to a halt.
Yes. And then it was built in 1950. And when I was a baby in arms when we moved in, and there were fields at the bottom of the garden. And we could see my grandparents' house up on the slopes of Dundry, Broad Oak Hill. And then gradually the Harridge estate was built, Withywood and Hartcliffe. And I can remember Murford Avenue in Hartcliffe. It's on the border of Hartcliffe, Withywood. I can remember those houses being built, and I was only young, and I remember saying, those houses are marching up the hill. Of course, people laugh now when I say that, but that was my childhood interpretation.
Well, there you just mentioned it somewhere where you could not imagine that being open fields. You just couldn't. Couldn't imagine it, because it is what it is, and I suppose it's that sort of existential living that we're living in the moment. You're driving up that road. You could not imagine open fields.
No, but I can.
Because you saw it. It was real.
Yes.
It was actually, so you're explaining to, and it's when you start becoming aware of the world as a child. But you also are living very much in the moment.
Yes.
But you're curious. Why am I living where I'm living? Why do people like me sound like me, and all that sort of stuff. And then you start to be curious as to what's happening, and then all of a sudden you start to see changes as well.
Well, my house was built in Somerset. And then
of course it was, yes. Of course you were. You were the county of Somerset.
Yes.
Of course you were.
And then we got swallowed up by the city and county of Bristol.
Yes. Yeah, which again, that another significant change. And you've gone through that. You've gone through Avon, and you're now in Bristol again, aren't you?
Yes.
You haven't quite gone back into North Somerset.
No.
Although I'm sure they'd like to claim you. Let's just come back to you, if I may, Jenny, because volunteering matters. Volunteering is. We've touched on this in the last hour, actually, about how you meet your partner. One of the biggest problems we have, one of the biggest social problems we have, and it is a bit serious, is loneliness. It's people being on their own. And how do you, in a world where everyone's pouring at their screens like gibbons on mobile phones, where do you go and meet people? How do you actually interact with a person and look at them and have a conversation? Loneliness is a huge thing, and volunteering is a very good way of combating that, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's one of the benefits that people can get from being part of the project, is meeting new people, both their peers, but also getting to meet the children of the area as well, so getting to meet different people in the community.
How have you found it, Diana? How have you found going into classrooms and talking to young people?
Well, I used to teach, so it's not
Well, it's
daunting.
easy for you then.
Yeah, it's not daunting in any way.
No.
No.
What has surprised you when you have been recounting your story, when you get the response you get from the children? What's been?
I haven't really met the children in relationship to this.
Right.
But it's interesting to hear the response from adults, especially people that don't know much about the neighbourhood, because they found it quite fascinating to think that there were fields at the bottom of the garden, there were cows.
And this is, again, it's one of those things that we live in the moment.
Yes.
We don't consider the past, and the past is, the history is a sort of precursor to the future.
It definitely.
And if you go a little bit further on down there, there's this big new, the bypass opens next week. The Link Road,
Yeah.
and on the other side of the Link Road, Taylor Wimpey are doing an environmental impact at the moment.
Yes.
4,500 homes, 4 new villages. That whole area in 20 years
Would be completely different.
Completely different. Tell you what, let's take a pause for a piece of music. We'll hear more from Jenny. She is the Regional Volunteer Manager for Volunteering Matters, and more from Diana Porter, who's the lead volunteer for the project Learning for Life Together, and how much you can get involved as well. Let's get back to our guests now, though. Jenny, she's from the charity Volunteering Matters, and Diana is one of the lead volunteers from the project Learning for Life Together. We've been exploring how Learning for Life Together and Volunteering Matters have come together to encourage people over the age of 50 to join a new project to share the history of where they live. You've given us a taste, Diana, of your history, how where you live has changed. Now, every part of Bristol, every part of the city has gone through, as Bath has, as Weston has, huge changes. You just have to drive down the M5. 25 years ago, you couldn't see Weston-super-Mare. Now it's it's in your face on the side. So much has changed. What do you think is going to give? What do you think a good person to join this project would be like? What skills do they need?
Well, they need to be interested in people, and they need to be able to sort of break out of if they are isolated, to break out of their isolation, and they also need to be encouraged by us and other people to feel free and relaxed to be able to talk about their experiences.
Need to be born and bred and all, like born and bred in Hartcliffe, born and bred in Withywood,
not necessarily. It's living there. Yes. Some people have lived there for a very long time.
Yeah.
And there's a very dear old lady who's in her late 80s who we're hoping we can encourage to talk to us. She might not be able to physically get to the school, but we've got plans to involve her. And she's lived in Queen's Road, Bishopsworth, which is now Withywood, that part is now Withywood, all her life. Her family have lived there for generations.
In the same house?
Yes. And she has also written 2 small booklets that have been published by the Malago Society.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, her memories were, she wanted to produce it as a book to give to her families. And that's been produced really nicely. And I've got a copy of it. She wouldn't let me pay for it. She gave it to me. And she lives in a little cottage called Brook Cottage. And she had a stream at the front of the house and a stream at the back of the house.
Both those have gone, I'd imagine.
One at the back is still there. The other one's been culverted.
Right.
Yes.
See, this is the fascinating thing about this, Jenny. I'll explain why in just a moment. I want to hear from you as to why you're doing this.
Why we're doing it? I think as a charity, we're really concerned about loneliness and isolation in older people, and we've partnered with Bristol Ageing Better, who gave us the funding to run this project. We want to help older people age 50 plus. That's our kind of that's what we're looking for, to engage with people. engage with younger people and to feel more part of their communities. And that's certainly what our charity is all about.
I'm seeing another benefit to this, which is why I was curious as to why you're doing this. I'm seeing that sort of history is just highlighted there by Diana. If we don't tell it, we lose it. It's gone. And then history becomes this, with respect to history teachers and historians, it becomes dates, kings, queens, battles. It isn't real. It isn't personable. It isn't about what life was like for a generation ago. Not, fighting the good fight on the front, but, living a life where your house was the house that you were going to have built in 1939. Well, that's delayed for 11 years because a war comes along. I want to know what that was like.
Absolutely. I think that's
because
really
I know what the war
interesting.
was. That's 39 to 45. I've got that bit. But what was that like for you, waiting for your home to be built?
Well, I wasn't.
Life was on hold.
I wasn't born, so.
Okay, but for your parents, and your family.
Well, they met during the war.
Oh right, okay.
They were in sort of reserved occupations making aeroplane parts in one of the tobacco factories in Ashton Gate. It was just off Raleigh Road. In fact, it's situated in Upton Road, and that's where they met.
So again, you think of the reality of airplanes and air parts and all the aeronautics that were going on in the Second World War being at Filton and Patchway. No,
But
it
no.
wasn't. No, they were making parts in cigarette factories and what have you. So
Yes.
that's again
To help confuse the Nazis.
Yeah. And it was all part of the supply chain as well. So
Yes.
these little things like that, Jenny, that will get lost unless they're told and recorded and
And it's-
passed down to young children who then go, oh, that's interesting, and they start exploring this stuff.
It's going to be fabulous having older people in the schools with the children as well, because I was just talking to my daughter the other day, who's that right age. She's in year 3, not in this school, but in another school. And she couldn't believe that there are people that I'm working with who were alive during the Blitz. It completely blew her mind, this idea.
Yes.
And she was so interested to hear about the fact that our other volunteer that we're working very closely with at the moment, Brenda, her school was bombed during the war, so she had to go and have lessons in other places around the area. For my daughter, that's just amazing. They find it fascinating.
So this thing that is a date, a dusty date, that is significant, becomes real. It becomes real and tangible, and it can touch. And that's I think this is a fascinating project. If people want to get involved, how can they do that? How can they do this?
There's 2 things they can do. They can contact me, Jenny, directly on my phone number. Do you want me to tell you that now?
Well, if they give us a call here, we can pass the details on to
That's
you.
perfect. Or otherwise, we're also going to have an open meeting on the 9th of February in the Withywood Centre, which will be from 1 p.m. till 2:30, that anyone can come along to. Diana and I will both be there, hopefully Brenda
Yes.
as well. We'll tell them a bit more about the project, how they can get involved, and we can support them to do that.
So pop down the Withywood Centre, 9th of February between
1 and 2:30.
1 and 2:30, or give us a call here and we'll pass your details on to both Jenny and Diana and get you involved in this Learning for Life Together project, which is being run by Volunteering Matters and supported by Bristol Ageing Better. I wish you every success with this. Recording this sort of history is so important, otherwise we do lose it, and long may that continue.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.